YouTube, it's Mike. I've noticed there's been a lot of interest in the insect populations that I've been dealing with. It appears as if I'm not the only person that's been having some issues. Now, I haven't seen a lot on or heard much about the fruit fly issues. The strawberries here, I still have somehow down in the soil here, I still have a number of fruit flies that managed to stay free. But if you look at these traps, these glue papers, which is basically, you can make this out of fly paper. I mean, these weren't that expensive. But you could actually make them even cheaper yet. And you can see that I've got quite a number of the fruit flies. Now, I've had them also in with my celery here, and I've had no actual insects that landed that I could find on those pieces of paper. Now, they're advertised for indoor use, for indoor plants. They seem like they do their job, I think, for the most part, but really, as far as getting rid of these little white bugs that I've had around, I don't think that's what's doing it, or what is knocking my numbers back, because I've definitely seen a reduction in numbers. Now, apparently, once your insect numbers on the plants get low enough, what I've learned is that your ladybug will leave you. I had a ladybug that was around here for probably a week and a half, and if you check, compared to what I had before, you will not see much of anything. You might see the odd bug here and there. Just trying to see that one. There's a few of them that I've seen around, and I actually wondered if they weren't just the bodies of ones that had been killed. My spider vacated on me, and I'm not sure exactly where he went. He had a nice little web hanging from my light bar here, and twice I broke his web on him, and I didn't mean to, but I did, and he took off and hasn't come back, unless one of the cobwebs up in the corners there is actually a spider web. I'm not sure right now. I need to get on getting my mirror in here. Some of my stuff is looking a little bit light deprived. I'm wondering, this was my butter crunch lettuce. As you can see, it's doing wonderfully. If you didn't want to grow anything, there's not a thing left. I'm not exactly sure what has done it in, because over here I have some romaine now. I just watered it, so we got some drooping going on. I kind of knocked them over a bit. But otherwise, they're still up and growing, which is, I'm not sure. Two things, both treated pretty well the same, a romaine lettuce and a butter crunch lettuce, and they both came up with vigor, started going strong. Both of them started to wilt ever so slightly and act a bit funny, and then the butter crunch died. The romaine took off, or is still live anyway, and I'm trying to decide whether this is something to do with an insect, a nutritional issue, or, like I say, a light issue. It's kind of a weird one, and there's so many variables right now that I'm not even sure where to go with that, except for I got to get my hanging unit up and get it started, but I still want to get the mirror in before I do that. Raspberries are doing, I'm going to say okay. There's a few spots that have died off, and I'm trying to figure out if I've been looking and I can't see any particular insect issues, but like here is, if we can focus on it, a a node that's been growing and is now dying. And I can't see any major issue. Now, what I should do, I guess, is pull one of those out and get like a magnifying glass and tear it all apart completely, because there's something going on with that too. Now they're not done, and they're actually starting to develop down in the jar here a little more of a root base, which I've been waiting for, because I think that'll be the trick to them taking off. The strawberries, I ended up mowing them back again. One of the things I've noticed with these fruit flies especially is the more dead material, or even not perfectly live material, that I remove, the less these fruit fly looking little jiggers. I should actually take a close up of some of these, just in case they're not fruit flies. Maybe somebody knows the difference. They're little flying insects, and so I was calling them fruit flies. It's a general term, I guess. But it seems like until I get things cleaned up, these fruit flies are just here in hordes. And what's happened, I think, is they've actually got into a few of these, and killed them, possibly. This one here was doing so well for so long, and I keep kind of tearing away the dead pieces, and I'm seeing crawling bugs coming from down in around the root base here. So now what I've done is I've made sure that I'm not going to let any flowers grow for a while until I have some of the plants get established. I do remember that from when I used to work in the fields, growing strawberries and whatnot, that if you pull the flowers off for the first while, it allows more energy to go to the root and to the leaf. And in this case, it may also help with the insect population, because they are a brute and they're feeding off of anything that's dead in this container, as far as I can tell. There you go, stick myself. Bonus! Yay! Okay, so now I'm trapped. Wounded my finger, and apparently this fly paper sticks to it quite well. Here, I'll do one of those. So anyway, the other thing I want to say, celery is once again taking off. This plant here in particular has got 2 brand new shoots right here in the center. Again, I want to say I'm pretty sure, and the funniest part is my wife didn't lose her marbles. I think the biggest thing that's been helping here is the ladybugs, believe it or not. And I know that they're carnivorous, and I know that they eat insects, and I know that they can be very beneficial. And I don't know why I never thought of it sooner, because otherwise, when the weather was still good, I would have been out grabbing a few. And the other thought I've had is, even especially with this planter here, because I can take it out, and it already has this hoop, it was for a climbing plant, I was tempted to see about throwing a couple of ladybugs in there and then using some plastic and making like a greenhouse hoop house unit around it and sealing it the best I could. One, that would keep the moisture in, it would keep all the small insects in, it would keep the ladybugs in, and basically what I could do then maybe is keep an eye on it until all my other insect populations were down, and basically force those ladybugs to eat up every last bit of insect that was in there. Because I think what's happening is they're being fussy, and so like you see them, they go in through here and they eat up all the bugs like crazy, the biggest ones and whatever, the easiest to get, and then they take off, and you find them somewhere else where they find a bug or two. So that's basically, I think, what's happened. I mean, if you look at a lot of these leaves compared to what they were before, there's nothing. And it's starting to really show down in here. In fact, I think I'm going to have to get some bags or something and create a, sorry about that, need to create the, like a blanching bag, I guess. Outside, I never have to do this. I grow them close enough together. But if I've got my insects under control, I don't mind using a blanching bag. You just basically cut the bottom out of a paper bag and pull it down over top, and it'll keep things together a little better. And it should also keep your lower pieces of shoot a lighter green because they're not going to get as much light. But the light green is also one of the things I'm thinking is happening because of a lack of light. And then, of course, the other thing I should show you guys, down in here, you'll see a dust, and I'm not sure if you're going to see it anywhere else right now. I don't use a lot, but it's diatomaceous earth, DE, food grade. And what I do, or what I've been doing, because I was noticing the ladybug even couldn't get way down in, where if you pull one of these stems off, you'll see a few live of those little white buggers in there. And so I've used, this is a bit of diatomaceous earth. It almost is like a clay, fine powder. And the nice thing about it is it's an abrasive for the insects, and it's very fine. And basically what it does is it gets into their body and causes cuts, causing those animals to dehydrate and die. And so the idea is, by getting them down in my crotch here, then basically this is where I think those insects are going for their early years and their development and moisture and whatnot. And so by getting that right down in there where the other end, or where the ladybugs haven't been getting, I think I've backed them off in there. I haven't had to spread it all over the place because this stuff can make quite a mess, and I was really trying hard to not injure my ladybugs. And so as of right now, I'm going to declare a relative success. I'm going to say 90 to 95% of these little white bugs. Now I know what I'm looking for. I can go around. If I see one, whether I notice it's alive or not, I don't worry. I can, right now I'm not even going to find one. I can usually spend a few minutes standing here over the wood stove next to the fish tanks and find a bug or two. But I'm not seeing them right now. But anyway, I'll just very gently pinch them off the leaf at this point. And a lot of them haven't really done much when I pinch them off. It's as if they've been dead for a while, like the ladybug had eaten their insides and just left the body there. So I think at this point, my next big steps is to see if I can get my mirror up in the back here to reflect some light back more towards the plants and from the windows that are behind me where the cold is. And I want to get my pop bottle tower up that I have a video on, and then I'm going to transplant this romaine. I'm going to seed some of this butter crunch into there to see if that makes a difference. And I want to get some of my tomatoes going because I would love to have big mature plants, and preferably even cuttings off of those plants for spring. And I don't see why I wouldn't bother just going now, because I can always cut suckers and keep trimming them back and making more and more plants, and that's not going to bother me at all. Because I also have, with this project, 2 great big flat totes. They'd be bigger than the fish tank, but I was going to do like a drain flood system in them of some sort, and I never really had a plan. I just saw them and thought they were perfect for what I wanted to do. And so I've never actually set them up yet, but I'd like to get to that. And with them as well, I'm kind of wondering if if these guys, the raspberries, would like some actual something to stick their feet into. I feel like maybe they're just floating a little too much in a little too much water, and it's causing, say, a lack of oxygen. Even though I've got the bubbler in here, and I try to keep the root or the bottom of the stems over a good section of air, hoping to keep them oxygenated, because I do believe that in indoor aquaponic type, if you're going to do it in an aquarium like this, it's all about like minimal gravel as far as I'm concerned. In fact, it's only since I brought these in that I put gravel in. Otherwise, I could just use a tube and a siphon, and I could literally vacuum the bottom if there was too much debris. And because I'm breeding fish and growing plants, I preferred, like, I would use a jar like this, which is a hiding place for babies and whatever for snails to crawl on. It's also a nice bio unit that when you move tanks, you can pick that up and set it in another tank without ever emptying the water. So any beneficial biological material that's in that jar can be transferred directly. So they've been helpful, especially when I didn't have any gravel. But like I've said, my filters have the bio stones in them to hold the beneficial bacterias. So it hasn't been a major issue, but I've gone mostly gravel free until recently, and even now, if you look close, you can see like it's literally one layer of gravel thick, and I just haven't worried about it too much. It's not something as much as I want them to be nice to look at. I mean, my son even decorated this one here for Christmas. Thank goodness for that. He thought the fish needed to get in the holiday spirit. But this is more about function, and then I like to be able to see the fish at the same time. And it's also been quite the kick to see the roots. If I go through and trim the shoots off some of the celery, within a few days you'll notice a bunch of roots starting to float and they'll shrink down. If you look back at some of my other videos, this big celery that I saved out of a kitchen, which is getting quite the big lump here now, and is coming back real nice. Looks like a bonsai celery plant of some sort. The roots here used to take up a huge area in this tank, and after I cut it back this last time, it really shed a lot. And in fact, if you look real careful, you'll see some roots still floating in that tank. But I'm looking at this as a system. It's one of the reasons I've been avoiding using the soaps and some of the different oils and especially any other chemicals, because I don't know how tolerant my fish are going to be. Diatomaceous earth is a secret ingredient for a lot of things I do. I use it in my chickens, I use it for my dog, I use it for all sorts of insect applications. I've even used it, mixed it with water and a hint of soap, and used it on my grapes. Some of the stuff I haven't even done videos of yet, and I got to get to that. But this is another update, another long update, and I think I'm going to leave it there. If there's any questions in particular, let me know. I'm still not ready to call this any kind of a success, but it's my first time. And really, this is my first, these tanks and this particular little setup was my first run of any sort of aquaponic trial. And it was done in my shop. And it was only done for part of the summer. So the fact that any of this is working out at all, to me, is saying that if you do your research, I mean, you can at least have some small successes, and then you can grow from there. And the biggest thing I want to figure out in the future, and for the rest of my life, is what to do about these insects. If I can avoid ever getting them again, especially in any kind of numbers, I think I'm going to do it. I also think that one of the things I may do is follow my son around, and whenever he's collecting ladybugs and putting them in one of his little jars before he leaves them out in the sun, I'm going to grab them and put them somewhere, save them up, and then in the wintertime, if they survive or however that works out, I can, especially if I'm not running this all year, which I think I probably will now, it'd be really cool to have some of my beneficial insects that my wife doesn't seem to mind and all that. You know, like the ladybug, she'd prefer the spiders didn't show up, but she also hasn't killed any of the ones I've tried to introduce. So we'll see. But yeah, let me know what you think. The diatomaceous, if you've never researched it, research it. It's I mean, some of the stuff that they tell you is kind of garbage, but it does have some definite uses, and things aren't going to become immune to it. So it's a good one. So yeah, that's that. Let me know what you think. The flipping of the plants that I showed before helped. Wanted to mention that. That knocked my numbers back, and the ladybug kind of cleaned them up. And now I got to find more ladybugs. Okay, we'll talk to you. Ciao.